Hey everybody, welcome back to Willson Builds. If you're new here, I'm Zach. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're returning from a previous video on my Instagram, thank you for all your support, and thank you for showing up to today's video. I'd like to just take a quick second to thank each and every one of you watching, subscribing, as we just passed 1,500 subscribers, which is blows my mind. I couldn't do it without you guys. You guys motivate me to keep making these videos. So thank you very much. Today, we're working on the 1929 Ford Roadster project. We're gonna be blowing the frame apart. And I don't mean like destroying it. I mean, we're gonna take the rear end out. We're gonna take the engine, transmission, grille, radiator, headlights, front axle, everything. We're gonna go to a bare frame. And that's because we're done. The frame is essentially done. And we can start prepping it for paint. We'll probably paint it in this video. Maybe not base coat or clear coat, but definitely get it prepped with body filler. I'd like to put an epoxy primer on it, get a little bit of body filler where we need to make the frame, you know, smooth. And then we'll put it in a filler primer and see where we get from there. Obviously, I'd also like to tackle painting the rear end and the front axle and kind of all the little bits in between. But yeah, that's the plan for today. So let's get into the video. All right, so this is an absolutely miserable day out, so I'm gonna go outside and get the engine puller, and probably shouldn't be pulling the motor with the 55 in here, but I'm just gonna scoot it over that way as much as we can, and I'll pull the motor to the back, and then we'll put it on the stand. So I'm gonna go get drenched and get in the engine hoist and the engine stand, and then we can start pulling this thing out. Okay, so let's get this carb off. The nice thing about taking all this stuff off, taking the axles, taking the wheels, we can do a lot of little jobs too. Painting the wheels, you know, if we want to marker in the embossed emblems on the wheels, we can do that. We can, yeah, essentially just do a lot of little stuff. I like those jobs, little jobs, because you feel like you've done a lot, but realistically you haven't done that much. So now that the motor and transmission are out of the way, I'm gonna go push our engine hoist back outside, and then we'll get to start on the frame. Okay, so let's get organized. Okay, so now we're gonna pull this chassis all the way forward, hopefully as close as we can to the garage door behind me, because we have to start disassembling the rear axle. So hopefully this will work flawlessly. Okay, now we have to take off the rear hairpins, rear shocks, brake lines. So I'm just gonna time lapse it. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So yeah. All right, now we have our master cylinder, our Vega box, and our brake lines to remove. Oh, and our middle cross member. So I think we'll probably start with the brake lines. Actually, no, we're gonna start with the Vega box because there's brake lines going behind it. All right, so now that we have access to our Vega box steering plate, we can go in there and just finish the welds, fill the gap, weld on the other side, and essentially do the same thing with our brake mount and all the other little bits and pieces we have that we have to weld. So I'm gonna get the welder ready and then we can start kind of just going along. I'll probably go around the perimeter so I don't have to jump from side to side and then figure that out. All right, so I made pretty good time. So I'm gonna spray it with some epoxy. All right, so we got the frame inside now, and I think we're gonna work on the rear end and the front axle today. The frame turned out wicked. You know, with paint on it, I can kind of see where I have to pay attention with a little bit of body filler, but overall, the Victory Rod and Custom frame, the stamping was really good. There's not a lot of imperfections, and we could probably just put filler on it and paint it and clear it and call it a day, but for my peace of mind, I'm just gonna do a bit of body filler here and there, and the places that I'm gonna focus on the most are places that I made bad by, you know, grinding or welding and filling and stuff like that. So just make it look a little bit better. But that being said, I'm gonna pay attention to that later. I like to focus on the rear and the front axle today. So with the rear, there's only one thing we have to change, and that is this sway link right here. So when we lowered it in a previous video, we put the Q&A shocks on the rear and it lowered it 2.5 more inches in the rear. So essentially, instead of our link, I don't know if I can show you guys this well, but instead of our link being up like this, it went 2.5 inches lower. So when I jump on the suspension, it contacts the rear differential. So we're gonna have to make a new piece today. So I got one cut out, but I don't think it's gonna be thick enough for the height we're going with. So I just went and got 1/4 inch metal here, and then we're just gonna trace that out, cut it out, cut this one off, weld the new one on, and then that should be just fine. So let's jump into this, and then we'll pull it all apart and start getting it ready for paint. So what I'm gonna do is just go take our, I guess, template and cut it out, and then we'll cut that guy off and weld this one on. All right, so let's get our pilot hole for this guy all drilled out. All right, so if you didn't understand what I was kind of trying to explain in the first clip there, this sway link, I think it's called a sway link, I could be wrong, was originally kind of at this height, attached to the frame, and then when we lowered it, it went down to about here. So we're in the danger zone of when the suspension is going up and down to hit the top of the rear end, and it was when I was jumping on the back. That's why we cut our new piece. So this is 3 inches higher to the eye, so it should have no issues clearing. And we've also made the floors raised in the back of the trunk too, so this should be no issue whatsoever. So let's get this all cut out and this one welded in. So what I'm doing now is just taking the brake lines off because they're not needed right now. So we're gonna take them off and we'll take the hairpins off, and then we can start prepping this bad boy up for paint. All right, so it's coming up pretty clean, but I'm just gonna let that degreaser kind of sit on there for, I don't know, however long it takes us to take our front axle apart. And yeah, we'll start taking the front axle apart, I guess. Okay, so now that we have it out, we can start cleaning it. And this has likely sat out in a field for many, many years. So although it's, you know, new, it's old. And I'm gonna get all the, you'll see when I start scrubbing how much actual grime and grease is in there. Alright, so just cleaned this off really good. I just sanded it, got some of the burrs out, nothing too crazy. Obviously when it's dropped, it leaves a little bit of like smegma on there, so we can hit it with our primer now. Probably do, I don't know, 2 to 3 coats and then hit it with our Hotrod satin. And yeah, then it'll be good to put back in the garage and dry overnight. All right, so we just sprayed that all with primer. Obviously we're gonna use a different differential cover, but everything else went on pretty good. As you can see, there's still little imperfections and stuff, but it's because this is a used rear end, so not a big deal. But we're gonna take our Hotrod black satin and go hit our front axle while this dries, and then we'll come back to this. All right, as you can see, we have our front end basically all laid out. So we're just gonna piece it back together. We'll start with the spindles and kind of work our way up into the hairpins and the shock mounts and leaf spring and go from there. But it's dry, turned out really good. So we're ready to put it back together and then shove it in the corner. The first thing I'd like to tackle is putting all the spindles back together. So I've kind of done right and left, as you can see. So we'll take what we have here and get it all in the same spot and put them back together. All right, so I'm gonna put our disc kind of hardware on, but I'm not gonna put the disc on because we still have to pack those bearings, and I'm gonna wait to do that until we put this thing together for the last time. So I'm gonna put this all over in the corner, kind of just half assembled, I guess, and we'll worry about, you know, the discs, the pads, and the calipers at a later date when we're ready to put it all on, and we can do our final, you know, snug. I did anti-seize on every piece of hardware that we touched today, so we don't have to do that in the future, but it would be nice to, you know, do everything all at once. The clip in my overalls just broke. But anyways, like I was saying, we'll do this later, not a big deal. I just realized that the tires have different sidewalls, and this one should be flipped. It has a nice big Firestone on the end here, and nice big Firestone on the side here, and that one is on the opposite side. So we're gonna have to get that switched, which sucks, but good thing we realized it before we painted the wheels. So whatever, not a big deal. So I'm not gonna put this guy back together. I mean, I guess it just has the hairpins and the rear shocks. Yeah, that can just go in when we paint the frame. That's just super easy. The front is a little bit more complicated with the spindles and such. So yeah, we'll leave this and just do it when we put everything back together. There is something weird with these brakes. I think something fell out. So we're gonna have to figure that out as well. I have the piece that fell out. I put it somewhere. We'll have to find it. But yeah, got the differential coming from Gas Classics. Put a little bit of a scratch in it right here and here just now moving it. So that sucks, but at least it's on the top. You're not going to see that. And e-brake. Got to also figure out the e-brake. So I'm just going to shove this in the corner and clean up and I guess reassess what else needs to be done for this video. All right, so the last thing I want to kind of tackle is the rear end, and we're going to make it look a lot better. Of course, the paint isn't going to be perfect. I could have taken a lot of time and sanded these all down and get all the rough spots out, but we'll likely be changing this rear end eventually, so I'm not too worried. And it's once everything's hooked up to it, it's not a super big deal. Anyways, we got this gasket, and we got this rear differential cover from Gas Classics. So this will make a cool addition to this. It's gonna make it really pop. So yeah, super excited. So we can pop this guy off, start putting this one on, sealing it, so on and so forth. So let's get on to that. And a lot of people have made fun of me for using traditional tools instead of power tools to take bolts off like this. So I might break them and then go to a power tool, but very doubtful. I like using traditional style older tools, even though this is a brand new wrench itself. Oh, this has been off before. Phew. I hate the smell of that. Oh my God. Woof. That's the only smell on a car that'll make me gag. Anywho, I've already taken this off in the past to check out the gears. So, sweet. That means we don't have to do much cleaning. We don't need this. So I'm just going to clean the edge up with a razor blade. Get it down with, I guess, brake clean. And then put our new one on. So I have one complaint. The washers fit perfectly. Let's see if I can get, yeah. So it cups it. So there's a big gap and it kind of folds up onto the, anyways, that's annoying. I'm gonna get different bolts for this eventually, but this will do for now. But it looks really good otherwise. So pull it off the bench and put it with the rest of the parts, I guess. All right, guys, I'm gonna call the video there. I mean, wasn't that long of a video, I don't think, from what I filmed, but I don't know, maybe after editing it, it will be. But either way, we got a lot done and I'm super happy where we got to. Obviously, there's gonna be videos like this when you're building the car where it's just, kind of mix match jobs, getting things ready, not crazy exciting, but it sets us up for a lot of content to come and a lot of jobs to come as well. So the frame is sitting there, so we can start doing our work on it, body work, primer, base, clear, and then when that's all done, we can start putting it back together because we don't have to have the body painted and the frame painted at the same time. We can actually have the whole chassis done and then worry about the body, and I think that's what we're gonna do. So super happy where we got to. Hopefully you guys are as well. Tell me about it down in the comments if you are, and don't be afraid to hit that like, subscribe, and notifications. I know I say it every time and it gets a little cringy at the best of times, but it really helps us build the channel and motivates me to keep making videos for you guys. And I want to thank each and every one of you guys for making the last couple weeks of the subscribe list go up. We're almost at, I think we're just over 4,000 subscribers now, and that's huge. I never thought we would get there. So I want to thank each and every one of you guys. And if you're not subscribing and you like what you see, don't be afraid to hit subscribe so you can see every time we post, which is every single Friday. But anyways, guys, hopefully you liked the video. I had a hell of a time making it. It was a great time. So we'll see you on the next one, and hopefully we'll do something a little bit more exciting next time. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. See you later.